Welcome guys to the first Vulcan Arena. Today we have Jagdsauce versus Mystical Walrus in the first game of a best of 3. And today we are going to be seeing Slutsk. On the Soviet side, we have Jagdsauce with the 29th Tank Corps. And on the Axis side, we have Mystical Walrus with the 116th Panzer. Get this underway. We'll just speed it up so that we can see the deployment. So this matchup's an interesting one. We're going to be able to see the IS-2 1943s going up against the good old Panther Gs. The 116th has a lot of Panthers on their division, so I expect in the long-range engagements for Mystical to have the advantage for the most part because of the amount of Panthers that he can bring in, as opposed to the number that Jagdsauce can bring in. I would assume with the 29th Tank Corps using the Vanguard deployment type, he's going to have potentially an IS-2 in Phase A, followed by 2 in Phase B. And then with the 116th, he's using a balanced division, so he's going to have a lot more access to Panthers as the game goes on. It's just going to be dependent on whether or not Jagdsauce can find the breakthrough with the Vanguard division at the start of the match. So we're getting some troops down here. Let's have a look on the Soviet side. We are going to be seeing T-34-85s. Ah yes, the 29th Tank Corps does get quite a lot of the T-34-85s, so that can definitely be used for a strong breakthrough in the early game. He's also going to be using an Su-57. These things are really nice because they actually have been given HE shells, I think, now. So they can fire at infantry as well, but the brilliant thing about them is they have a really decent rate of fire. So the 12 round per minute rate of fire with the 115 millimeters of penetration is actually really strong. So we'll have to see if that gets used nicely. We've got some Razvedk here, we've got the Strelki following up. It's also going to be a 45 mil. And there's also AA at the start, so AA to cover the tank push on the top side. In the mid we have a PTRS-41 and a Strelki. It's not often I see these PTRS squads, but I guess they can be good for sniping some transports at the start of the game. There's just going to be a lot of infantry for Jagdsauce on the bottom side of the map here just to cover these points, although nothing really committed to this town, which is something that Mystical might be able to take care of, although he doesn't have a direct line there either. So Panther A on the bottom side, Panther A in the mid for Mystical. He's going to be bringing in the Panzergrens to this town. And on the top side, a relatively weak defense, which it looks like Jagdsauce might be able to exploit if he realizes. The IG-18 is going to be opening up onto these transports, probably revealing its position, but let's see if it manages to pick off any of these transports. If it does, that's actually quite nice. It's using up a lot of its heat, though, on those transports. The Razvedka do go down, that's the recon taken care of, which is quite nice for Mystical. And seeing this on the top side, especially if the T-34-85 show themselves, then Mystical, I assume, will react to that. On the bottom side, nice kill. Manages to kill this transport here before the infantry unload. So manages to secure these points on the bottom side, and it's this 1 point here that is making the difference now, 13 to 11. We do see the IG-18, excuse me, the IG-18 still engaging these infantry. Currently under fire now from the Su-57, with the HE shells actually helping out a lot, and also the Panzergrens do go down there. SDKFZ-251 is going to go down, and the only thing now left on this top side is the Pak-40, so that's going to be quite interesting whether or not that gets spotted and how it gets dealt with, because seeing this salient grow in front of Jagdsauce, I would not be surprised to see him just push into that, and it seems as though the T-34-85s do have a quick hunt order towards those flags. Now the Panther A is making a nice move to the mid here to basically find sort of a shot onto these T-34-85s from a different angle, because I expect another unit to come in from the top side to head that off, and then we'll have the Panther kind of shooting in from the side, getting that double angle to find the side shots. Also, this Panther A is moving into the position of the other Panther A, so he's just shifting the line across in order to compensate for this push coming through on the top side. Now the Pak-40 has revealed itself to the Su-57, and we'll have to see if, or how Jagdsauce, I guess, deals with that. He can use the motorcycles here for sure, so you can see that they're getting into range now to fire. and if he can pin down the Pak 40, then the T-34-85s are free to move through. However, with that only being one Pak 40, the T-34-85s could just probably pin it down themselves, and from that range it won't necessarily have the penetration if it's already used its APCR shells on the Su-57. The shooter knockout does occur onto one of the T-34-85s, and we see that the shots are still coming in. The APCR is being used up. That was the last APCR shot used, and now we're just seeing a generic engagement here, but with the mortar fire coming in, the Pak 40 is pinned. It's going to be all down to the Panther A. Now Mystical has actually purchased a commander. That's going to be quite an expensive investment this early into the game. These aren't cheap, 85 points, and that's not really going to increase his chances of pushing on this bottom side at the moment. Jagdsauce is just dug in. He's focusing heavily on this top side push, and Jagdsauce, seeing the Panther A coming into the middle, is going to move his T-34-85s to the top side of the map to kind of use the forest for cover, which is really smart. The Strelki moving into the forest here are going to attempt to secure this flag, and we also might see this one at the T-junction here be captured at some point if a infantry squad is pressed towards that. However, more T-34-85s coming in. We're still in phase A, and there is an IS-2 1943, so it looks like Jagdsauce did use one in phase A and potentially two in phase B. So the Strelki, they're going to be getting pinned by the mortars here. The 257 coming over using the corrected shot from the Pioneer Führer is just about in range with that. You can see the slight outline here is allowing that 257 to aim very quickly and get those mortar shots on target. Then the Panzergrenz can come in with their two MG42s and get some really good work done there. Now this 45mm starting to engage the Panther A does find the shooter knockout critical. If that potentially holds its fire and manages to get into cover again, we could see a pincer onto both these Panther A's. It's a bit of a dodgy position here for Mystical because he's got both of his Panthers like very close together, and they're not necessarily going to get like hit all at the same time by bombers at this point, but the issue is he doesn't give himself angles of attack. So Jagdsauce is going to be hitting him from this direction, like from here, and then also from here, which gives him the 90-degree angle he needs to find side shots. Whereas Mystical can't do that because both of his Panthers are in the same place. Ideally, one of these Panthers would go up on the hill over here, and therefore he can engage this right side from the hill, and then he can use this one across the open to fire across. Now there is the forest in the way, but he needs something at least to hold off the T-34-85s, and a Panther A can do that because of the 1943s not having APCR. So at max range, the T-34-85s will struggle to penetrate a Panther. Either way, nice play in the middle. Just a little bit of a probe here from Mystical Walrus. Is going to find himself a 13th flag, so starting to take away a few more tickets from Jagdsauce. Still maintaining the bottom side of the map, even though nothing is here. Interesting that Jagdsauce hasn't tried to press anything down here at the start. But either way, Mystical's got the upper hand for the time being. Panzer Grenadiers now engaging the Strelki. We see these Panzergrenz also helping out. T-34-85s getting involved though, so these Panzergrenz are likely going to be pinned down very quickly. Mortar fires coming down onto these Panzergrenz at a distance as well. So both of the infantry squads going to be dealt with. That's going to push back the front line. The flag's going to come under control of Jagdsauce, but that's going to be back to 12-12 with this little push in the center. Looks like Jagdsauce is bringing in a couple of T-34-85s and the Strelki to try and deal with that. And I assume that he'll be able to take back this flag in the center and then be able to push 13-11 himself. You see some artillery coming in onto the 37mm AA there. 257 going ahead with its mortar rounds. Going to be firing another set. But Jagdsauce, is he moving that away? I think that just automatically moved because of the fire in the trees there. But this is a scary position. Mystical has taken a little while to prevent this push on the top side. He's brought in an AT gun now, but it's going to be in a really awkward position because the T-34-85s, as soon as they get to the edge of this hill, are actually in a really nice position. The Panthers can out-aim T-34-85s, but we'll have to see what happens when those engagements occur, if they occur, because these Panthers are now pushing across to hit the IS-2 and the T-34-85. We do see the Cobra coming in there, takes out one of the Ju-87s. The one at the back's going to be taken out by the Cobra. That's 2 Ju-87D3s shot down. That's 120 points worth of aircraft, and the Cobra coming in for another run. It's going to be one down. The other one just manages to drop its bombs onto the IS-2, but does absolutely nothing. And that is a huge investment into aircraft. That's 240 points, and they all go down. That is a big, big loss for Mystical. The intention was, I assume, to allow the Panthers to engage the IS-2 and the T-34-85 at a distance, but he just left himself exposed. One of the Panthers actually got killed. And that is rough. Very rough indeed. Pak-40 does go down on the hill. And that is a lot of the AT in the center dealt with. So these T-34-85s are free to push up. Now, granted, Mystical probably didn't realize that the T-34-85s were pressed all the way around the top side of the map. So really smart play from Jagdsauce. We do see the Cobra coming in and strafing to death the 257 mortar carrier, so that asset's gone as well. Should be through in the open. They're going to get hit. Really nice use by these Cobras, and no reply so far from Mystical. Losing those 240 points does leave him at a massive deficit during this game, and now it's just coming into play as Jagdsauce takes full control of the top side of the map here. He's even got the high ground now, so really, really nice. Although, has he lost a unit? He lost the Su-57. That's not the biggest loss in the world. The flak-filling, I assume, was what took care of that due to its light armor. Cobras are going to be leaving the airspace now as another Cobra comes in for the strafing run onto the IG-18, which was engaging the T-34-85s. Strelky pushing back, taking back this flag. We're now 14 to 10. If he manages to shut down this Panther, Jagdsauce may just be able to take this point in the center, although the push forwards from the IS-2 and the T-34-85 might just be enough to do that. We're now at 15 to 9, and that will be a minor defeat for Mystical Walrus in 15 minutes and 21 seconds. So, really, really impressive start here from Jagdsauce. The placement of the Panther A's, to me, was a little bit suspect in a sense that it's fine having one here, I think, because you want to be able to basically cut off this road to the top side. But the second one probably should have been in the position of the Pak-40 at least, or potentially further to the right. And seeing the salient coming through on the top side, nothing was really brought in there to stop that or even see what was there soon enough. I think sometimes it's good to actually play reactively in that sense, just so that you can see what's coming. The nice little play from the Panzer and SDK Z251 did see that there was barely anything in the middle, but in the end wasn't really effective, and Mystical's now being forced to play reactively regardless, with the Panther G coming in on the top side. So we still got the trio of the T-34-85s just driving about. We got the IS-2 going ahead in order to engage the Panther A, and these IS-2 9043s are pretty scary these days. They do have the 40% accuracy on their main gun now, as opposed to 30%, which they used to have. So at longer range engagements, you do have to be very wary, and with only the 130 front armor, the Panther A is going to have to back off there. But really nice kill onto the Panzer IV. We can see that the T-34-85 command is being forced back with a shooter kill, and the crew panic. The Panther G did take a couple shots, but got crew panicked itself. Now the Pak-40 is trying to find the kills, ends up bailing out to the T-34-85, but that does still provide the veterancy for the time being. So the Pak-40 is going to want to finish that off, whilst the other T-34-85s get on the hill there. So a nice little response. Unfortunately, not quite the results that I think Mystical wanted, especially with the Panther G being crit like that. That was very unfortunate. But either way, has managed to curtail a lot of the aggression that Jagdsauce has been putting on. But the Panzer Grenadiers and the half-track here have now been dealt with. The flag in the center is easily under control of Jagdsauce, although there does come a transmission damage onto the IS-2 9043, but that does manage to kill the Panther A. It's gone down, and this is looking very scary for Mystical right now. The Panzer Grenadier is just holding this little gap here, almost completely surrounded. Pioneer Fjorda holding this flag on their own. It's not a good place to be. We do see that the T-34-85s are trying to creep up this hill. Can Mystical make a play with the Panzergrenz? They're actually reversing towards the Panzergrenz. Can the Panzerfaust get the job done? Oh, nice kill there. And the other one's kind of panicked, so even if this one misses, it's likely to just surrender the T-34-85. And the T-34-85, I might be able to get one shot off, but if the Panzerfaust goes, that is surrendered. Easy. Nicely done there by Mystical. Good play. With those Panzergrenz, fantastic value. And now the Panther Gs are able to get into position on top of this hill. Perfect. So this is how you recover from that position. Really, really nicely done. We're going to have to see a Panther G potentially sit on the hill here and cover this road. And we want another one on this side so that you can basically find side shots onto things like the IS-2s. Like using these hills across here is probably the best way in order to just control the open ground, and then making probing attacks onto these flags is the way that Mystical comes back into this game. For the meantime, in the bottom, like, he's just sitting pretty. So if Mystical can definitely like damage the assets that Jagdsauce has on the top side, he can make a strong push back, and that is another T-34-76 going down as well. The 1942 variants with a 90 front armor as opposed to 75 mils. Panther G's doing their job, although did use up their APCR shells to find that kill, which is not ideal because they're going to want to save those for the IS-2 engagements in the future. We do see the IS-2 Komrotti on the way. I think maybe Jagdsauce will use the... Actually, that's a good point. He's going to have the IS-2 Komrottis in Phase B, probably, and then have the IS-2s on like a 4-pack in Phase C. Maybe that's the way he's going to do it. But either way, another IS-2 coming onto the field, and we're going to see these T-34-85s reversing for the time being. Do not want to be engaging the Panther G at range. That is definitely a bad engagement for them. So a little bit of a recovery here, and it's not the worst deficit to be at this point. Mystical's, it's only 14 to 10, 24 minutes to sort out this mess, and as the game continues, Mystical does increase his income. In Phase C, there's going to be a 60-point disparity per minute in favour of Mystical, so that's going to give him a chance to come back if he can last that long. At the moment, though, it's pretty scary because it keeps getting pushed between 15 and 14 points, and at 15, that only gives him 15 minutes to react. So we see actually this point being briefly capped. I expect that to be fixed sooner than later by Mystical as he moves some armor towards that direction. But these Cobras, they are doing work. The Pioneers being pinned by those strafing runs, and the AA not being able to find the results onto those aircraft, the Flak 38 20mm, just not that good compared to the flak filling that he had previously. And now, as soon as those show themselves, the mortar fire coming in to try and finish them off. All these mortars, they do have the 1-star veterancy, and the VZ VOD providing that extra veterancy there. So 3-star mortars, great rate of fire, managed to pin down that 20mm. Not getting the results they probably wanted, but good for now. So 15 to 9 with this flag being contested. Well, we do see the Panzerwerfer, great counter battery. That's going to probably take out all of the mortars. It does manage to hit the supply as well. Very nicely done there by the Panzerwerfer. Great value from that rocket unit. And just some really nice plays coming from both sides. The initial push from Jagdsauce was really good. And the play around the top side of the forest was really smart. Then managing to get that Panzer Grenadier with the Panzerfaust to kill these two units. The two T-34-85s was absolutely pivotal in defending this top side of the map. And that definitely takes off the pressure from the AA, so we're probably going to see less of the Cobras on the top side for the time being, until some more artillery comes onto the field. So we're going to see a Katyusha now, and I wonder what that's going to be used for, because I guess there is two Panthers sitting next to each other, so maybe he could do a double pin and then push with all of his tanks on the main road. That could work, but we do see another Panzerwerfer coming into play. So double Panzerwerfer on the field. They go for the strike onto the Ziz-2, but not really able to find anything there. Only did 1 damage to one of the AT guns. So Mystical, he is looking for a play on the bottom side. He's bringing in some Panzer Grenadiers. He has some Pioneers in these half-tracks. The half-tracks are really good because they allow you to get infantry into places that you'd otherwise not be able to, because if, for example, they were in an Opel Blitz, any light arms fire will unload them at a distance, whereas the Pioneers being in the half tracks, what it allows them to do is get closer because light arms fire cannot kill the units. So in this case, he's just using it to get them close and into the town nice and safely, and then he can use the close range HE grenades from the Pioneers to wipe out the Strelky here. 45mm AT gun is going to take out the Opel Blitz in the open. Really not what Mystical is going to want to see there. That's very unfortunate. Those Panzergrens with Panzerfaust are not cheap, 35 points a pop. And pop they certainly went. The Pioneers here, coming in with a HE grenade, do manage to push back one of the Strelkies, the Seperli, coming in with their own HE grenade. Can the Pioneers outrun that? Probably not. Boom goes another unit of infantry. So the Panthers are sitting pretty up on top of this hill, but if the Katyusha continues to get closer, it could get some really accurate shots onto the Panthers, potentially finding kills, but also going to be trying to go for the pin here. So I think I was right about this play. Jagdsauce now going to be pushing forwards aggressively with the IS-2 1943s and the IS-2 Komroti on towards the Panther Gs, and then I expect the Katyusha to be fired at that position at the same time. So the positioning of the Panthers, I think, is what's letting down Mystical throughout this game, because he does, or should have, more availability of Panthers throughout the game compared to Jagdsauce's T-34-85s and also the IS-2s. It's not a massive difference, but it's enough that he can potentially find more side shots across open ground. But in this case, having both of the Panthers in the same place means that there's no side shots to be found onto these IS-2s, which is unfortunate, and he doesn't even have the APCR on this Panther G to be able to penetrate the front armor of the IS-2s, so that's going to be, yeah, very much in favour of the IS-2s here, and with 2-star veterancy, the 40% accuracy, the combat here with the basically the commander giving the leader the extra buff to these IS-2s. One of the Panther G's already dealt with, the other one's isolated now, and will likely have to fall back. Yeah, and it's going to be moving back now. Just wants to keep it out of range for the time being until he can find another way to deal with the IS-2 push that's coming through here. Although the T-34-85 or 76 1942, that is going to be killed off by the Panther G and the Panzer IV, so that's one tank dealt with. Meanwhile in the town, looks like the Strelky actually managed to get the better of the Pioneers. That is not something I expected to see. But, looks like maybe he's going to bait the HE grenade. Is he going to move back? No. So they're probably going to get surrendered. I think Jagdsauce has definitely got his attention on the top side right now, as he does manage to pop the Panther G and the Panzer IV. They're both gone. So it's just infantry here now. The half-track goes down. The Strelky do actually manage to trade a HE grenade onto the Pioneers, which is good for Jagdsauce, but none of this infantry has AT. So he's in a bit of a bad spot for sure. So the Panzergrens, or Panzerwerfers, sorry, they're going to be able to get the rocket strike onto the IS-2s, but kind of missed the mark. So the IS-2's quite happy sitting there. A little bit worried, I think, Jagdsauce, about the infantry that's in this location. Like, the reason these IS-2s aren't pushing forwards right now after killing both a Panther G, or, well, 2 Panther Gs and a Panzer IV, is because he doesn't know what's here. And if he decides to go up the main road without any infantry support, and there is a couple Panzerschrecks or Panzerfaust even, that's going to be a couple of dead IS-2s very quickly. So I assume he's waiting for these Seperli to arrive, and then with the support of that infantry he can make a more concerted effort. The only trouble with waiting is that it does give Mystical time to react, and that's what he's going to be doing there, bringing in another Panther G and another Panzer IV on the top side. We see a couple more Pioneers coming into this engagement. I think Jagdsauce potentially let that engagement slip away from him. He had somehow got the better of the Pioneers, potentially a bombing strike previously actually, and yeah, Mystical ended up turning that around. He's pushed it back. There is some Tanko Desaniki there with an M2A1 half track with the 50 cal, but you know, concerted effort into this town right now will probably take it. Although there is the 45 mils here, they can potentially kill these Pioneers before they get into the town. That is going to be a pretty expensive loss. These are 30 points apiece, and the half-tracks, they cost 10 points, so gun jam there. Not going to be enough to unload the Pioneers. And one of the half-tracks does get taken out. You can see what's coming in there, so that's not too bad. Panther G Fjorda going to be moving into position in the center. Mobile Wagen currently covering that with anti-air. Is that the third Panzerwerfer? It is indeed. Mystical going to be relying a lot on these rocket artillery. Oh, here comes the Mobile Wagen. Can it shoot down the Cobras? There's also the Flak 38 20mm. The strafing runs did their job. There's also an LA5FN joining the fray. They get the strafing runs down onto the Panzergrens in the open. That's all they need to do. They're going to get out of there. They're probably going to reload pretty quickly, so not a massive loss. Oh, nice Panzerwerfer shot there. Hits the anti-air. I don't think that was necessarily intentional. The rockets, I suppose, were supposed to come down onto the IS-2s, but yeah, one of them went astray and managed to hit directly the AA. It's a really nice job. Although, what's going on here? This too is managing to find criticals onto the Panther G. That is not what you want to see. He's actually only using AP shells as well, so I'm not even sure he has penetration at this range. Maybe he does. That is going to be 120 mils of penetration. Maybe just. But yeah, currently just critting to death this Panther G. Also going to take out the Panzer IV. So has pretty much neutralized that armor with one AT gun, which is pretty scary actually for Mystical. Jagdsauce has a huge lead here and did make a little play for the bottom side, moving in a couple of Strelky, so managed to get that point. This point is currently under his control. So those are the two that are giving him the 14 to 10. Now he needs to work on taking this flag, which will push 15 to 10. And then after those fall, these two will likely follow quite quickly in the current position. Panther G still being smacked there by the ZIS-2. It's not in a very nice position at all. All the A-20C Boston coming in with the bombs, going to be smashing these Panzergrens. And, well, didn't manage to kill them off, but definitely kept them pinned. And the Sapari going to be able to continue their engagement with the DP-28. So, we're going to see Sapari facing off against the Pioneers on this top side. Another play all the way around the top side of the forest from Jagdsauce. If he can actually get shots with the IS-2s onto the spawn, that would be an easy cap onto this and this flag. So that's a really smart play again, if Mystical doesn't see it coming, which he might do this time around because of the placement of these Pioneers. However, saying that, the Pioneers can't actually see this SU, I don't think. Let's just have a quick look. Yeah, they can't. They're not close enough to see those tanks coming around there. So, down on this bottom side, Mystical's kind of making, I guess, half-assed pushes into this bottom side because he's so busy having to deal with the top side at the same time. So it's good to see Mystical trying to take advantage of the other side of the map and maybe take a bit of initiative. But the positioning of Jagdsauce here is pretty strong. He hasn't neglected this area. So a double T-34-85 1944s now coming in, and they're going to be covering the main road all the way down in that town. So that's going to be really tough now for Mystical to reinforce, because you can see that that is now completely covered, and therefore these points are more or less completely secured. If the Panzergrens get too close to the Razvedka, then those Panzergrens are probably dead. That bomber did come in. It went for the bombing strike onto the Panther Gs. Okay, so the T-34-85s, I assume, are going to attempt to maybe engage those, although they're currently sitting back engaging the Panzergrens in the town. We do see some more Strelky coming in onto the top side with the Razvedka. As this Panzerwerfer going, I can hear them firing. They're firing into the town. They're trying to pin down the infantry, so the Mystical can move forwards the Panzergrens and potentially take some ground there. But yeah, these Razvedka going to be able to clean up the Panzergrens in the open. They have the SVTs, so they're actually pretty strong in that respect. And that's a great job by the Razvedka there. T-34-76 helping pin down and kill off the Panzergrens in the open with the Strelky DP. These have two DPs. perfect mid to long range infantry with the SVT DP setup. So that's really nice. Cobra going to actually come in on the top side, goes for the strafing run onto the Flak 38. That's cheeky. But there's a lot of AA there. He might actually pay for that if the SDK of Z71 can stay on target. Mobile Vulcan's firing away. Will it get out? Be lucky if it does. So close to dying. It looks like it's just about to get away. That is very, very sad for Mystical. He's had to invest so much in AA, but it just hasn't paid off throughout this game. It's really sad. Because of the artillery initially, which he managed to take care of, destroying all of the mortars. But now also the planes coming in and strafing it, so that's really sad. But the A20C there coming in with the bombing run again does actually manage to get a bomb onto the SDKZ-251 half-track, which potentially would have killed it, but didn't. Pioneers managed to get out in time. Panzer IV H on the main road. I think that did get killed off, yeah. So we see one Panzer IV going down there. Big play coming in the middle here. And we see the Aufklärer Panther D and the Panther Gs making a play for the center. Mystical is just trying to get some flags back. If he can take this high ground with Panthers, it's actually going to put him in a really strong spot. And you're going to see Jagdsauce reacting to this by bringing in 5 M10s. That's quite something. And also the P-39 Cobras coming in again. Oh no, that's terrible news for Mystical. He loses one of his Panthers there, the Panther G going down. I assume that was the 1944 T-34-85. That is tragic, because that push, it could have been quite promising. Like, pushing across the open like this is always like very risky, but if he gets to the high ground and starts controlling the high ground here, then that gives him, you know, plays over this point, over the town, and that could be a really strong place to be whilst all of Jagdsauce's armor is committed on this top side. But with the infantry being taken care of in these forests, Jagdsauce is going to take control of a 15th objective and put the defeat to 4 minutes for Mystical if he can't react. So Panther G is being brought in here, does manage to get the transmission destroy with the APCR shot onto the T-34-85, but it's not a position it wants to be in. The triple IS-2 here is really scary, and with the turret stuck now into the Panther G, I think fortunately that turret stuck was actually facing forwards, but that is 2 Panther Gs going down there. That is really, really scary for Mystical. Very bad news. And all he's got in the way now is a recon unit that's not actually going to be affecting the front line, so this flag is potentially going to go in favour now of Jagdsauce completely. I think Mystical's hoping that these rockets hit the mark, but they are not going to. The IS-2 start moving forwards, the majority of those rockets are going to miss, and once again, Jagdsauce getting away from those rocket strikes. MU-109 G6R6 does manage to strafe one of the IS-2s. That's going to allow the Panther G here to continue to do its work in the center. So these are managing to still make some ground, but with the M10s now arriving, also an IS-2 1943 to back that up. At close range, these M10s can do a lot of work. They don't rely on APCR, they have AP shells with 130mm of penetration. So at the 500 m range, they're going to have probably like 60-70% chance to penetrate the front armor of a Panther G. So easy to engage those with the M10s at close range, and that's probably what Jagdsauce is going to try and do here. Although the strafing runs from the Cobras is going to make things very awkward for Mystical, very frustrating, because he can't necessarily move the AA up to compensate against that, because they will just get sniped by the tanks, whereas at least the Panthers can kind of tank the shots from the T-34-85s and stuff. And the mobile wagon is just going to die very quickly, so he can't move that forwards. A20C going to be coming in with the bombing strike. Also the strafing run coming in there as well. Both of the Panthers are going to be falling back. Bombing strike. See if it hits the mark. Nope. Just didn't hit, but the T-34-85 going to be engaging the Panther G. Oh, nice crew panic there from the Panther G, saves its bacon. The bombing strike coming in again, though, is going to keep those pinned down. M10's making an attack move forwards. Meanwhile, on the top side, the flag has been controlled there. Nice use of the Panzergrens in the open to just control this flag for now, but only 1 minute and 55 seconds until defeat now for Mystical. I think it mainly comes down to just the lack of, I guess, focus from Mystical. Like, I did like the way he was probing the bottom side, but there wasn't really enough to make a dent. And then the definite delay on dealing with the T-34-85s up here affected the position that Mystical is now in. So, yeah, it's really tough. Mobile Wagons are going to be coming into the center to prevent those strafing runs in the future, but Jagdsauce is now in a position where he can potentially push those back, and that is going to be the Panther D going down. I believe that was the T-34-85 finding that shot. We also see the SU-57 getting involved now as well. And there we go, Panther G goes down. Sad times, the last hopes of Mystical Walrus have now been completely dashed. And no ground to be made anymore. Mobile Wagon's going to have some fun times deleting some Strelki. These aircraft, I think Jagdsauce got a bit over ambitious there. I think he potentially wanted to strafing run the Flak 38 on its own, but then obviously the two Mobile Wagons showed up and really spoiled the fun. But yeah, the 5 M10s, make that 5 M10s and an IS-2. Yeah, there's nothing here to really prevent that. There's 23 seconds on the map, so looks like Jagdsauce has done enough to get his victory. There's loads of AA at the end here, which is going to shoot down that A-20C Boston. But across the board, Jagdsauce has managed to claim this first game in a best of 3. And good job indeed. Really nice play around that top side. And just kept out of line of sight of the PaK-40 and potentially Panthers up on that ridge using the line of sight. Really, really smart. So, 35 minutes and 6 seconds. Jagdsauce is victorious with a kill death of 3,830 kills to 1,900 losses. Definitely showed during the match. Got a lot of value for money out of his IS-2s. If we jump over to the kills, we can see the SU-57 did pretty nicely. I mean, just picking up these kills is really good for the SU-57. The 45mm finding a Panther G kill is very nice indeed. Oh yeah, the Cobra play onto the Ju-87 D3s. The 4 Ju-87s. This is why I don't like the Ju-87s, because they're so slow. So it gives your opponent so much time to react to them. And they just got destroyed. That was 240 points worth of planes just got shot down. So quickly indeed. IS-2 1943, look at that. Panther A, Panther A, Panther G. Beautiful stuff. Adding the extra veterancy with the commander and the leaders is exactly what you need to do with these IS-2s. And now they have 40% accuracy as opposed to 30% accuracy. It's really worth having the extra veterancy to buff that even more. Just makes them actually snipers now. Well, not necessarily snipers, but decently accurate at longer ranges compared to what they used to be. So they get a lot more value out of their ammunition. You no longer have to have those supply trucks nearby because you're missing so many shots. The 37mm, actually the 82mm, I guess, mortars on the back of those motorcycles, they were very effective, obviously, until they got hit by the Panzerwerfer. So PaK-40 and the Flak 38 going down there was using those to pin a lot of the AA so the Cobras could go to work. This T-34-85 managed to kill a Panther D and the Panzer G Führer. That was later on. And this one, obviously, Panther G, Panzer IV. There's 2. This one actually killed both the Panzer IV and the Panther G that were reinforcing the top side. This was actually pretty crucial at that point in the game. Just shutting down the reinforcements of Mystical was very, very good. And basically took away any hope that Mystical had to stop those IS-2s at that point. Really nice Panzerwerfer strike. It was the only Panzerwerfer strike I think I saw that was relatively decent. This one luckily got the 37mm AA. Panther D there does manage to claim 2 T-34-85 kills, but a severe lack of armor going down for Jagdsauce from Mystical with those Panthers. And I think, especially early mid-game, came down to placement more than anything. Just not finding the angles properly. And I guess having like 2 Panthers in the same place is maybe necessary against some of the IS-2s, but in general, you probably want to be looking for the side shots more so. Even if the Panther Gs can engage at close ranges, or, well, longer ranges even with the APCR. But that's it. First game between Jagdsauce and Mystical. It was a good one, that's for sure. We'll have to see how they do in the second game of the first match in Vulcan's Arena. That's it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.